to Education Committee, the first of the year, and I just first of all would just obviously welcome everyone, and welcome. We have some guests here with us today from Arthurlie. We have Leanne Dunnett, sorry, and Ainsley, sorry, apologies, Ainsley. And also we have Jerry here from St Ninians with us, and from Barrhead we have Fiona Johnson with Anna, Elizabeth and Kyle. Just want to welcome them to the committee. Thank you. Do we have any apologies for absence?
We do, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Wallace and Devlin today.
Excellent, thank you. And any declarations of interest? No, none. Thank you. Excellent. And so the first report today, the next item is Education Scotland report on Barrhead High School, which is first of all going to be introduced by Janice. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. This paper informs Education Committee of the outstanding report by Education Scotland on Barrhead High School. Barrhead High School was inspected by Education Scotland in October 2023. Under the full model arrangements, Education Scotland evaluated 4 quality indicators and provided a short report detailing strengths and areas of improvement. A copy of the report is included as part of your appendix. In assessing the indicators of quality in the school, Education found 2 aspects of the work to be excellent: leadership of change and ensuring wellbeing, equality, inclusion. The other 2 areas, learning, teaching, assessment and raising attainment achievement, were evaluated as very good. This report is one of the best reports in Scotland and highlights the sector-leading practice by staff in Barrhead High School in delivering excellence for the pupils, parents and indeed the community. As a result of this report, we anticipate interest from schools and the education departments throughout Scotland. Excellent practice and key strengths are listed in paragraphs 9 and 10 of the covered paper. They include the collaborative whole school approach to leadership as a strength worth sharing more widely. All staff young people are involved in agreeing whole school priorities and in making changes for improvement. The approaches to involving partners to support all young people in a bespoke and inclusive manner, and how it's resulting in greater levels of inclusion, increased wellbeing for all young people. And the approaches to anti-bullying involving young people, this is enabling them to have a clear understanding of how to behave and how to self-manage. The result of this is a much lower instance of bullying and behavioural incidents. I cannot emphasise how exceptional this report is and for any East Renfrewshire school, and these evaluations are made to reflect that continued commitment and efforts by the head teacher, staff, pupils and parents and everyone else associated with the school. To highlight the excellent performance of the school, it should be noted that only three other secondary schools in the past 6 years have been rewarded with excellent evaluations, and of them, only 2 for leadership of change. It is particularly pleasing that the outstanding leadership of our head teacher, Fiona Johnston, is recognised in creating a culture where staff and young people lead change and improvement effectively across the school, and indeed the exceptional use of professional learning by staff to continually improve their practice. The leadership of our pupils is paramount in this report, and I'm delighted that Anna, Elizabeth and Kyle have come along to celebrate their role in achieving such an excellent report for Barrhead High School. The inspection team identified 2 areas of improvement: to continue to build the highly effective practice in learning, teaching and assessment, and to develop approaches to skills development so that young people can confidently discuss what they gain from their participation in wider achievements. Given that the school has been judged to be excellent in 2 indicators assessed by Education Scotland, there is no need for an action plan to address the areas for improvement as noted above. The school will continue to use the results of its own self-evaluation to identify priorities for improvement, which will be published in its annual Standards of Quality report and its improvement plan. Education Scotland will make no further reports in connection with the inspection of Barrhead High School, and the Education Department recommends that the school be accredited for its achievements. This will mean that the authority will not carry out any formal quality assurance activities in Barrhead for a 3-year period from the date of inspection, i.e. until October 2026. Elected members are asked to note and comment on the contents of the Education Scotland report on Barrhead High School, and indeed commend the school's outstanding achievements by awarding its accreditation from October 2023 until October 2026. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Janice. And as Janice mentioned, we have been asked to note and comment and commend the school's achievements. Do we have Councillor Pragnell?
Just, of course, comments. I don't think there's really any questions on this report. I just would like to thank Mrs Johnson for her leadership. I think I'm so pleased that it's been highlighted in this report. Certainly when I visited the school, I think in October 21, it was clear and evident that both pupils and staff were happy, and certainly the pupils that I engaged with had nothing but praise for their experience at Barrhead. Also, I'm pleased that your ethos has shone through. Certainly, again, this is evident, and finally it's been recognised. I believe you've only been the head teacher for less than 5 years, and your progress is exceptional, and I think I just look forward to seeing what more and to kind of keep up these standards. So thank you very much, and thank you for being here, and thank you to the pupils. I've certainly still sometimes bump into your previous head pupils who chat to me mostly about Doc Martens, I have to admit, but no, they're still, it's great to see them thriving as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Oh, sorry, I'm not sure who was first. Des, we'll let Evelyn go first. Thank you.
Very proud, incredible, well done, fantastic. A young woman who's a former pupil of Barrhead High School worked for our organisation for a couple of years, and she spoke so highly of the school, and she said the school gave her a lot of confidence, and she's actually now just recently got a really plum job as an education and outreach officer for the Holocaust Memorial Trust. That is actually, it was supposed to be a Westminster-based position, but Kirsty persuaded them that she was so good that she just needs to go to London one week in the month. So well done. It's just so fantastic what Barrhead High has achieved. Well done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Evelyn. Any other comments? Sorry. Oh, Des, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. No, it's just to say, as teachers' representative, obviously, on the committee, I would like to extend my hearty congratulations to Fiona and all the staff and pupils at Barrhead for what is a truly exceptional report. And thanks, Chair.
Great. Thanks, Des. Sorry, Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and congratulations, all of you. It is an absolutely exceptional report, and I think a credit to the school and all of the hard work that has gone into delivering on these outstanding outcomes. It's certainly, it's no real surprise. We know we have great education in East Renfrewshire, and I've been working towards this, and I think what we see here is the result of a long-term, not only investment, but in the work of our teaching staff and in the dedication of our teaching staff, but also in the outstanding work of all of our pupils in getting to this stage. It is, without doubt, well worth noting. Fortunately, I was speaking to the Cabinet Secretary yesterday for Education and highlighted this report, saying, look, you really need to have a look at this and consider visiting the school, because we are delivering in outstanding circumstances, given the challenges in particular of the last few years, to deliver on this, to have improved attendance, to do all of the things that we regularly see in the news where there is negativity and failing. And you have gone above and beyond to show that there is a lot of good work happening in our schools, that our schools and our pupils and our teachers are all performing at a very high level. And so congratulations to you all, and thoroughly well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. Councillor O'Donnell.
I'd like to echo the comments that have come through and really congratulate the pupils, some of them here today, the teachers, the support staff, including our award-winning catering team, which can be forgotten but very important, and all in the education department, but in particular the head teacher Fiona Johnson. You should be incredibly proud of this achievement. This success does not happen overnight and is all about determination, commitment, and commitment to excellence and great leadership over a sustained period of time. So well done to everyone, and I'm glad to see some of the pupils are here today involved in this. Is really well deserved, and I'm delighted that these results have been published and that everyone can see the great work that has been done at Barrhead. So really well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Merrick.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, just to echo all the comments that we've already had there, this really is an outstanding report in all shapes and forms. And also, this has happened during what has been a particularly hostile environment for schools over the last few years. So congratulations to everybody involved in this. In particular, congratulations to Fiona, who has delivered this sector-leading practice across the entire country and perhaps further. Really an outstanding achievement, and as people have touched on, it hasn't just happened. It has been that hard work, that dedicated work, and that role model thing. I noticed a bit in the report where it talked that the pupils follow the role model that's given, and that is leading to better behaviour. The environment for learning has just been increased so much, and then the learning itself it's terrific. Absolutely well done, and for sure at least 3 years before the next report, I would suggest, and maybe a day off for everybody. I don't know if I can say that.
Thank you, Councillor Merrick. That was a bit controversial there, but that suggestion, but well, we'll see. Okay. Any other comments? No. Okay. Well, just before I'll ask Mrs Johnson to say a few words on children, I'd like to just also mention something else that picked up right at the start of the report for me is the typically additional support needs, is in every school, and typically it's about 30%, but in Barrhead High it's at 44%, and yet the school is still, it just shows you that the school can still, in any school in East Renfrewshire, including Barrhead, anywhere, they'll still deliver for the children at the highest level. So I'll pass over to you, Mrs Johnson, and the children. Thank you.
So good morning to all. First of all, thank you for inviting us to join you today. As the head teacher of Barrhead High School, I am delighted with the Education Scotland inspection report, but not only for the school, but also for the wider community of Barrhead. For me, what this report says is it doesn't matter where you're working in East Renfrewshire Council, we're all, everyone in this room, committed to making a difference to our young people and getting the very best outcomes we can, despite the challenges that have been acknowledged already this morning. I was pleased that the inclusive and ambitious ethos of Barrhead High was recognised as a key strength of our school community. Our respect values were demonstrated by all and permeated all aspects of our daily practice. Throughout the report, the contribution of our young people to drive forward change and be fully involved in decisions was noted as a strength. Their leadership to inform approaches was viewed as innovative and sector leading. As I regularly say at Barrhead High, there is no me, it has to be a we. Everyone plays their part to deliver excellence. Therefore, I think it's crucial that the young people had their opportunity to speak to you today and share their achievements and their contribution to this report.
Kyle, thank you for the opportunity to join you at the Education Committee. My name is Kyle, this is Anna, and that is Elizabeth. As you can see, there are no senior lads with us today. You'll be pleased to hear that they are busy working towards their assignments to make sure they achieve the best they can in August. I think we probably did all the work anyway for the inspection, so you're inside safe hands. We were proud to hear the positive feedback on our role to increase enjoyment and engagement across the curriculum by informing our curriculum rationale and design. We were all involved we were all involved in thinking about what our vision, values and aims were at Barhead High, and spent the time thinking about what the future looks like to make sure the skills we develop will support us. As a curriculum ambassador, we all have provided feedback to staff on changes they are thinking about making to the curriculum. We regularly attend meetings with staff to advise them which subjects they could link in to help us make connections across different subjects. We meet as a team to share our views and exciting ideas. That means that we are enjoying their learning.
The inspection team were also very impressed with our work to promote rights and sustainability, which learners are leading. We were introduced to the concept of circular economy as one solution to the climate crisis. 75% of young people say they are concerned about their future. In response, we had opportunities to develop our skills and knowledge of the circular economy. Australia and partners delivered creative workshops called Making Circles. They brought materials out to Barhead High that were destined for the landfill. We reused these and repurposed them into design objects that could be taken apart and reused again and again. We were therefore using the circular economy design principles, which are recycle, repair and remanufacture. Our work was published in the GTCS magazine. We continue to offer project-based learning opportunities to involve all learners to think about their role to have a positive impact on our community. We also organised a Diversity Day after parents delivered workshops to staff, learners and parents to promote inclusion at Barhead High. This was an opportunity to explore our rights and celebrate diversity within our community. We've also supported other high schools to think about how they can promote diversity and inclusion by sharing our good practice.
Furthermore, the team highlighted their role in identifying and researching school improvement priorities, including health and well-being and learning and teaching. This involved training as researchers to investigate an improvement area and sharing our findings to make a difference. For example, we considered the purpose of homework as our survey results had indicated that learners were not always making the link between home learning and their learning at school. We also looked at how we could support others coming up from primary school to make the transition easier. The important part is we chose the improvement priority ourselves, and after establishing a baseline using data, we set out a plan to lead the improvements. Our achievements were recently published in the Curriculum Journal, and we were described as trailblazers by Strathclyde University. We also trained as learning and teaching ambassadors to join staff to observe lessons and provide feedback on themes to improve learning and teaching. This also involved joining staff at training sessions and sharing what we think makes a difference on our attainment and achievements. As a result of our leadership and the wider curriculum opportunities, the inspection team confirmed that we feel highly valued and respected. This was evident as we were the first school to trial focus groups for Education Scotland that involved both teachers and learners together to show how we work as a team.
I know the young people of Barhead High would also like me to acknowledge the commitment of all the staff at the school who regularly go above and beyond to make a difference for the young people. Barhead High is a very special place to work. All staff contribute to the excellent relationships that are at the heart of our school community. The report noted the focus on our value of equity and our commitment to close the gap for all. Our staff know our families very well and are aware of the challenges they face, and this is evident by the range of creative interventions at the school to remove barriers to attainment and improve health and well-being. The school's excellent approach to working with partners to meet the needs of our young people were also noted as a strength, and I was personally overwhelmed by the support from our partners who demonstrated their understanding of our young people and commitment to work with us in partnership to develop confident, articulate and inquisitive young people who were prepared for the world of work. I was also delighted that the involvement of our parents and carers in shaping the work of the school and empowering all to lead aspects of improvement work was acknowledged and was another key strength of the school. We've worked really hard to create close partnership working with families, and I've used their expertise also to inform change. I would also like to special thank you to the wider quality improvement team and the education department who continue to provide invaluable ongoing support, advice, and I would like to personally thank the education leadership team for nurturing my leadership over the years, believing in me to become a head teacher, and I think it's important to note their role not only in supporting but also providing challenge by sharing their expertise, and that's also what drives excellence in East Ramshire Council. I'd also like to thank the Convener of Education and all members of the Education Committee and East Ramshire Council for your ongoing support. Your visits, as you've mentioned earlier this morning, to Barrhead High provided us with valuable feedback, helping us to reflect on our improvement priorities and giving us an opportunity to showcase our strengths, but also to think about our next steps. We're grateful for your continued investment in education to make a difference to the future of our young people. Barrhead High School is very well placed to take forward the recommendations in the report. I'm incredibly proud of all our young people. It's a privilege to be their head teacher, and it's an exciting time to be leading Barrhead High, and I'm confident that all our stakeholders are committed to continue to raise the bar for all.
Well, okay. Whereas then we have noted and commented on the outstanding report, and we've been asked to commend the school's achievements by awarding it the accreditation from October 23 to 2026, and I'm sure the committee's happy to do so. And in recognition of this, the school does receive a plaque to mount in the appropriate area of the school, which I have here, which I just want to present to you, Mrs. Johnson, if that's okay. So we'll just wait a second and we'll let you get back to the school. Okay. Okay, so that was an excellent start to the meeting, I have to say. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda now, which is a spotlight on children and young people's wellbeing, readiness to learn, and this will be presented by Siobhan.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this paper is to shine a light on aspects of work currently taking place across our educational establishments in order to support children and young people's wellbeing and their readiness to learn. Mrs Johnson, Anna, Elizabeth and Kyle have highlighted the importance and the impact that this work can have perfectly through their update on their recent inspection, which identified key strengths related to readiness to learn. They're certainly a hard act to follow. Readiness to learn relates to a child's ability and desire to acquire new knowledge, skills, attitudes and participate in the life of the school. In this spotlight, we're focusing on children and young people's emotional, social and physical readiness. Paragraph 10 highlights 8 key actions identified through the Strategic Equity Fund related to readiness to learn, and the paper highlights a selection of activities that are currently taking place that address these actions. It's not an exhaustive list of all activities taking place, as a fuller report on the progress of the Strategic Equity Fund will be provided to Education Committee at the end of Year 2. Key pieces of work currently being undertaken include developing our Learn Well service to support children and young people who are unable to attend school due to emotionally based school absence, partnership working through our Healthier Mind service involving personnel from CAMS, Children's First, educational psychologists,
social work, RAMH and school nursing to provide support for mental and emotional wellbeing, the development of our social justice strategy and implementation of Year 1 actions of the social justice framework, and implementation of the recommendations from the East Renfrewshire ASN review, such as a review of our promoting positive behaviour strategies, further development of our specialist provision, and creation of an inclusive professional learning programme for pupil support assistance. As highlighted in paragraph 29, attendance is one of the key measures of success. Thorough tracking of attendance systems are in place, and analysis of attendance data initially from August to October and more recently data up to December highlights that this is an improving picture, and it includes an increase in overall attendance, a reduction in the number of children and young people with very low attendance, and an increase in the number of children and young people with either high or very high attendance. Paragraph 31 outlines a health and wellbeing assessment currently being trialled by the Barrhead cluster of schools, which measures wellbeing. Once finalised, this will be used as another means of tracking progress in terms of wellbeing through looking at resilience, school connectedness and wellbeing indicators. I'm delighted that Jerry O'Neill, the head teacher of St Ninian's High School, Leanne Dunnett, acting head of centre at Atherley Family Centre, and Ainsley McGoldrick, a senior educational psychologist, have agreed to join us today to further share the range of work taking place related to readiness to learn within our settings and schools. Elected members are asked to note and comment on the contents of the Education Department's spotlight on children and young people's wellbeing through readiness to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. As she mentioned there, we've been asked to note and comment on the paper. Do we have any? Oh, sorry. Siobhan, you wanted to hand over to the...
Yeah, so I'll start by handing over to Leanne and Ainsley, who are going to speak a bit around readiness to learn within the early years.
Thank you for this opportunity today to come and share the fantastic work that's done within early years, with a particular spotlight on Atherley Family Centre. So, babies are connected socially and emotionally to their primary carer from birth. The adult's role is imperative, ensuring continued development through meaningful interactions. Emotions play a crucial functional role in regulating and supporting positive communication and social interactions. The ability a child has in managing these emotions relies on the quality of their early experiences. Whilst we strive to have positive relationships between our staff and parents to support building on strengths and empowering them, people are not taught to be parents. They know their child best, but our role is to work in close partnership with them to help the children learn and flourish. The Children's Rights Bill, which is now within Scottish law, is embedded in our practice, and this supports GIRFEC to ensure the child is truly at the centre of everything we do. Nurturing principles are at the heart of our practice, where nursery is a safe space. Children's developmental stage is supported and wellbeing is developed through the staff's nurturing practice. It is imperative that transitions are well planned and individual to the family and the child. How children experience transitions and are supported through these will have an impact on how they cope with changes throughout their lives, and therefore must be planned and managed sensitively. So we're going to talk about some physical opportunities that we have within the centre. So the Family Centre has a Froebelian approach, ensuring a wholeness and unity of experiences. For example, taking seeds from fruit and vegetables, propagating and growing these to use when making soups or snacks for them to enjoy in their nursery day. Being hands-on in this process is essential in educating and inspiring our children. Muscle and movement is a planned set of physical activities which improves health and well-being, coordination, gross motor and listening skills. We also have mini kickers, and this is a football-based programme which encourages confidence, teamwork, balance and listening skills. Also, musicality and music groups are also part of our children's experiences. This encourages the children with their emerging literacy skills, looking at sounds, rhyming and syllables, as well as listening, following instructions and taking turns. Play is at the centre of a child's learning and development. Interactions with adults and other children is essential for supporting executive function through play opportunities. Children will attain new skills when they are developmentally ready to progress. How the adult, environment and their peers allow this process to happen is of paramount importance, and the reason early years needs to continue to have skilled practitioners. In Arthurlie Family Centre, we promote creativity and a growth mindset through providing a wide variety of learning opportunities and helping children to learn from their mistakes through encouraging teamwork and problem solving. We use different communication styles and pedagogical approaches to support those who are at the start of their journey and those who are successful to continually challenge their thinking and progress their development. Growth mindset is a way to give children and families the tools to succeed in life and learning, being confident, resilient individuals with the potential to become influential in their ever-changing world. We have an increasing number of children attending the Family Centre with a range of additional support needs. Through collaborating with other professionals, engaging in training and professional development, and working close with families, Arthurlie is extremely well equipped to meet the needs of our most vulnerable children. For example, we have a high number of children presenting with language and social communication difficulties. We've worked closely with the speech and language therapists and educational psychology to consider a range of new approaches, including bucket time, intensive interactions, sensory-based interventions and social skills groups. We also have made clever use of physical spaces within the setting to support children who find the busy playrooms overwhelming, including a sensory room, quiet area and the satellite room. I'll just pass over to Ainsley now. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. Good morning, everyone. So early intervention is a key priority for the Educational Psychology Service, and working in partnership with early learning centres, we've been able to drive really innovative practice in the early years, such as bucket time, as Leanne mentioned, Panical, which is promoting and nurturing early communication and language, and online training modules. And in response to the high number of children with language and social communication needs at Arthurlie, a PSAU satellite room was established in 2021. And this has allowed us to provide identified children with targeted support out with the busy mainstream playroom. And we've seen a really significant impact of this support. We've seen children requiring less support at nursery, but also moving into more mainstream settings or requiring less support in the primary one setting. However, our early years additional support needs settings are under increasing pressure, as are our mainstream settings. And as a result this year, thanks to COVID recovery money, we were able to set up the early years outreach service. So we have a team of 7 early years practitioners who work across mainstream settings with the key aims of supporting skills development of children with additional support needs, building capacity of early years practitioners and providing holistic support to families. And we're further extending the reach and impact of this support by including partnership nurseries and 2-year-old children. So from the numbers you can see there, the speed at which we've been able to respond to the needs. We've already supported 29 children since October 2023. And you can also see there from the range of activities the team undertake, a key focus is sustainability by developing a skilled workforce who are confident in supporting children with additional support needs. We have funding for the outreach support until October 24, so it's really important that we are planning beyond that date. So you can see some of the activities in terms of training, providing resources, working with families, working with our partners is absolutely crucial to enhancing that sustainability. So So it's early days, but we're already seeing the impact of this support on children, practitioners and parents and carers. We've developed and implemented a range of evaluative measures to assess the impact of the service. And we're already realising the importance of this early intervention in terms of engagement with learning, language development, focus, but crucially that readiness for learning. And I thought I would include just some of the comments we've had from practitioners and also parents and carers. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne and Ainsley. I'll hand over to Jerry now.
Hey, good morning. Just thanks for having me along this morning. I'll just start my second when Graham manages to get the presentation up. But what I would say, Siobhan started by highlighting the importance of attendance in school in terms of young people being ready to learn. And what we've certainly seen over the course of the pandemic has been an impact on attendance. Now, I know we spoke there about some data that Siobhan had from earlier in the year. This data I've got for you concerns our S1 to S5 pupils. I just want to set a scene for you because that's the percentage of attendance up until the end of the third week in January. Pre-pandemic, it was difficult to measure over the pandemic years with the amount of people who were self-isolating. So 21-22 is the first year we were able to start looking at that data again properly. And in actual fact, there were still people self-isolating, so it was difficult to pick up on the patterns. And really, we'll only begin to see that come into the national discourse this year about attendance in school. So this year, we are pleased to see that we are on an upward trend now. Over the past 3 years post-pandemic, we have been on an upward trend, but we're not back to where we want to finally get to. A number of factors in this, and one that we've often spoken about is family members working from home and perhaps the opportunity for young people who may have had to go to school in the past been able to stay at home, and maybe there's been a bit of an increase in that. In addition to that, there's a question again we hear often in the press right now about young people not attending school during the pandemic, and so some parents might identify that school is slightly less important. Again, it wasn't a factor we had really considered, but finally, in linking back to what Siobhan had said, that the authority have certainly taken an approach to emotional-based school absence, as we have had to do as a school. So we have the Learn Well service, which has been set up by East Renfrewshire Council, and we are accessing that for some of our young people who are most vulnerable and most in need of support. However, we had to ask ourselves, what about a school-based approach? Because the Learn Well service is not going to tackle this at the level which we require. So the first thing, we've had a bit of a universal approach. Contact with parents has been quite important over the course of the year. Consistent messaging, for example, around the Christmas holidays. And there has always been a case where young people have maybe had a day or two off at the end of term. But what we actually witnessed over the course of the pandemic is that when young people were going to have to isolate over the Christmas period, or family members would, they started to take the last week of term off. So that has grown into a thing. I'm not necessarily saying even in St Ninians, that was my experience out with this authority during the pandemic. And so that has an effect in class, because once the numbers drop to a certain level, teachers begin to think, well, what's the most value we can get? Lessons aren't being taught. So we had a huge push in this year. All the teachers were on board in terms of learning and teaching, keeping that going as late as we possibly could in the week. Not denying all fun, of course. There is a place for some fun round about Christmas time. We lettered parents before the last week, we lettered them during the last week, and we did see a significant improvement in attendance. So that's one of the factors. The other messaging we've had to get out there is just about what attendance actually means, because in a school environment we often, unfortunately the nature is we hear percentages bandied about, often in relation to tests, and while 80% might be a fantastic test score, 80% attendance at school is actually quite worrying, because it means 2 months off of school a year. So we've been trying to get messages out this year in relation to our parents for that, and highlighting how much time young people have out with school. So, in terms of our own approach to EBSA, we have started up our Let Us Flourish programme. We were lucky enough to be able to build a new wellbeing hub in the school this year, supported by the school. The funds that the school had, we've supported the organisation in the running of that through PEF funding to increase staffing in that area, and we've put in a personalised approach programme. And I think this slide is slightly difficult to see from where you are, but it kind of comes in incremental levels. So we are trying to address all young people, but as we get into the areas of mental health, we've put in significant supports in that area. I won't speak to this slide because it's quite small, but we have mental health first aiders across the school. 31 staff are now part of that team. We've got a team of 10 mental health champions, and we're also trying to make sure our teachers are upskilled to deal with these things within the classroom setting, because it's far too easy to say to a young person, oh, there's an issue, you can leave class. So we're trying to actually give the teachers the skills, but actually more importantly give the young people the skills to regulate, to keep them in class, because the best chance of success for them is in class. So we've had significant inputs in terms of CLPL for our staff. We're trying to develop the resilience of our young people. We've got programmes in terms of our new base, and I've cut many of them out, but an example there is our Wellbeing Green Library, which I think we were the first school in Britain to access support in this area and support and funding for that. So all of these things, this base only opened in October, okay, and it's not a base where we send young people throughout the day. Anything that we're trying to do has to be time bound, it has to be short term, and it has to be with a view to getting young people back into class, which is always the way it has been, but it's more challenging post-pandemic. Again, I'm going to move through. I've got a list of strategies there. One of the things that we're doing, and I think we're probably doing this across most schools, is we are now tracking the wellbeing of young people, and we are getting them to assess their wellbeing. But it's all very well having the data. The question is then, what do you do with the data? And we have programmes of support for the young people within that. And I'm pleased to report that actually, in general, young people are reporting very strong levels of mental health. There are the most challenging cases, and I have to say they're already on our radar. So we're now looking at young people who are just above that level, and we're able to identify them. We're using various screening mechanisms to try and support young people who are in danger of slipping into that category. And it's early days, but the signs are very positive there. And the other thing, we've got a number of bespoke programmes that have been put in place by Support for Learning now, which supports a wide variety of young people across the school, giving them more bespoke offerings to meet their needs. So that's been important, because we have to engage our young people fully to make sure they're ready to learn. Finally, I just wanted to mention about our learning pathways, because, and I think across the country, schools have always been well placed to support young people who make the move onto hires, and that there are hires available in almost every subject, probably in the vast majority of schools in the country. But we have been looking to extend our offering there. I'm sorry at the moment that the presentation's just gone down, but we've got a number of factors within that. And one of those is the vocational offering from East Renfrewshire Council, which is wide and varied, and allowing young people access to many more courses, whether it be in our base in Barrhead High or across the colleges which we partner with. In addition to that, we've added quite a range of courses within St Ninians ourselves. We've either trained up our own staff, or we work with some of the local colleges to provide those opportunities. Unfortunately, the list I've got is on this screen, which it hasn't appeared right now, but it will come up just shortly and give you an indication of that. And really the last thing that I wanted to mention, and I could give you 10 slides in this. I might not actually be able to give you any today, and I'm certainly not going to give you 10. However, traditionally in a subject like science, you would see that we would offer biology, chemistry and physics. Now, even in terms of SQA level, we have now brought in subjects like laboratory science, scientific technology, right on here, health sector, beekeeping, which has been quite popular. So we've got about 4 or 5 different courses in addition to the SQA qualifications at higher and advanced higher level. And the great thing is they go all the way from level 2 and 3 all the way through to level 7 advanced higher. So it's a wide offering. In addition to that, we've been able to roll out opportunities for young people to be STEM leaders, and they're working closely with the primary schools, and that is again children at all levels. So it's not only those children who are sitting advanced hires, and in fact that's been a great motivator for many of our young people. And I'll mention one other curricular area, and again I've chosen physical education because again we would expect higher PE. But in addition to that, we've got higher dance, we've got sports development, we've got sports leader, we've got sport and recreation, we've brought in refereeing and media. So again, it's just to give you a flavour of the wide range of courses that we are using to try and make sure that our young people have the opportunity to learn things that interest them. And because one of the things about having young people in school is having them fully engaged in their learning. So we've had to broaden out our suite of offering. But that's again been done with huge support from the Education Department and the Council. Those resources that come to us allow us to do that, and they're very, very important. So a range of different approaches we're taking to try and ensure our young people are in school have positive mental health and are having their needs met through their curriculum.
Excellent. Thanks all. And thank you very much from Leanne, Ainsley and Jerry, and I'm sure some members may have some comments or questions. Councillor Bragnell.
I think it won't come as a surprise to you that I'll be asking questions on digital inclusion, especially for those who can't attend school due to illness. So I'm pleased to see that digital inclusion has improved that for pupils, but my main question is, certainly we're talking about attendance there, and I remember shockingly in my third and fourth year of school, my fourth and fifth year of school, my attendance was 45% because I was too unwell to attend school due to physical illness. Now, to be honest, that seems quite shocking now, seeing that 80% is classed as in the red, so I don't know what I would have done had I been at school now. But so when I was in school, there was certainly support when I was in hospital, but that kind of the transition from being at hospital to home wasn't there. So I just wanted to highlight what is being done, because although you might be discharged from hospitals, you're still not physically able to go back to school. I mean, one of my regret is I don't have a science qualification because I wasn't in the lab, because I couldn't do that online. Certainly we didn't have online back then. So what can be done, and how are these children, pupils being identified? Because I think that's really important, that as soon as a parent flags an issue, certainly if it's about illness, then how is that being identified and how is that support getting in place?
Thank you, Councillor Pragnell. So we have our LearnWell team have an oversight of supporting children who are unable to attend school. And you're right, that can be for various reasons. One could be if a child is admitted to hospital and there's a range of support they can receive through that. We do know that some children aren't able to attend school and it's more for emotional reasons, and the LearnWell team with support with that. But there are other children, as you've rightly said, who maybe have been in hospital and they're discharged to home but are not well enough to be in school yet. We would work really closely in partnership with their school around how we would continue that support. That could be through work being uploaded onto Google Classroom or onto Teams. It could be through live lessons, again using social media. It could be through tutoring, one-to-one tutoring around key subjects to support. And I suppose that the main thing is around ensuring that their education does still continue. I think there's also a really important pastoral side to that, around their well-being as well, so that young people don't become disengaged with their school, and there's something about they don't then fall behind in terms of their learning, which then could lead to further complications, maybe leading to well-being and emotional barriers to then returning to school. So there's a whole suite of different kind of resources that we would put in place, and the LearnWell team are the kind of support and the link between that to work with the school to agree what the best suite of resources and support would be. In terms of digital inclusion, recently we had a young person who was admitted to hospital, and we were able to provide a Chromebook so that for aspects of the sort of online learning, they were able to access that through a resource that we provided. So that would be looked at and supported on a sort of pupil-to-pupil basis, depending on needs.
Okay, Councillor Spargo.
It's great to see how times have changed. I would really appreciate if I could perhaps meet with some of the LearnWell service to discuss this, as I think it's quite obviously an area of interest, and I think we should always strive to get it right for every child, and that means if they can't attend school. I think obviously since the pandemic there has been more of an emphasis, but yes, if I could maybe arrange to meet with the Learn Well service, that would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Flanagan, any other notes or comments? Oh, sorry, I think Councillor Buchanan, you were first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, thanks very much for the presentation and the report. And as much as all of the reports on today's agenda are all in many ways intrinsically linked, because they all lead to the outcomes that we had in the previous report, and I think this one highlights the work that gets done, which makes a lot of the previous report possible, because it highlights the importance for children. It's great to see that I was, when I first read the report, I noted the attendance aspect, because you're right, it has been a lot in the press generally in relation to that recently, and indeed well-being, and it's good to see that those things are moving in a positive direction again, and that we're addressing that. But what's also key is that this highlights the holistic approach that's very much needed across all of the sector to ensure that we get the outcomes that we all want, and that is vital going forward, because those areas, working with parents, working with the children themselves, our teachers do an outstanding job. But as this highlights, unless you can get a child in school and willing and able to learn, the teacher's job becomes all the more difficult. So getting to that stage is what enables all of those positive outcomes. So I'm delighted to see this report. There's a lot of good information in it. It highlights the continuous improvement that we've always strived for across all of our aspects of education in East Renfrewshire, and indeed in children's services. And that in itself highlights and enables all of the outcomes that we see on a relatively regular basis. But it doesn't come without a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work, and that is thanks to the staff that we have. It touches on the succession planning that I know some of our other papers then look at, and all of that is vital in bringing that together for the support of our children and young people. And so this is great to see, and of course at the end of it all, our children and young people benefit from it, but they are equally their participants in their own involvement, if you like, in ensuring that we get those desired outcomes. So thanks again for the presentation, and it's great to see.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thanks very much, Chair. I really welcome the attention in this report given to attendance, and I really appreciate Jerry O'Neill's presentation, because he really brought the issues to life, and in terms of what you're doing about it, which is very hard in a written report. So thanks for that. But I think, as Councillor Buchanan alluded to, this puts a lot much more pressure on teachers and within the schools, and it's not just a schools issue, frankly. You know, it's broader than that, and it does need multi-agency support and a whole system sort of approach to this, to help reduce the poverty-related attainment gap. And I look forward to hearing how attendance progresses and how we join the dots on all of those issues over time. Specifically in the vocational offering, anecdotally, a friend of mine, his son, not motivated through school at all, and he's got special needs, and not motivated to get to the school, but now in 6th year, because of these vocational offerings, and it's what he wants to do and what he enjoys, he's got no problem getting out of bed in the morning to get to school, which is something that I think as parents, we've all dealt with in the past. So those programmes do appear to be working, but that's very anecdotally. So I just wanted to note that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Yep, I think it's quite notable. I think what I've read from looking at the report is the partnership working, and what's associated with that was also the funding streams that were identified to bring all of it together to actually enable the well-being, the services and everything you've spoken about, and it's great to see that come to fruition. And as we've talked about in the terms of what the consequences are, or the results, or the long-term benefits for the children, significant. Does anyone have any other? Councillor Merrick.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the presentations. Very, very informative. and electing is a fascinating subject and an extremely important subject in general. We talked at the beginning. We talked about the early learning centres and so on, and that is for children nowadays. So the reason why we're talking about this now is we have had the experience of the pandemic. It's finished, but we all know it hasn't really finished because the impact of that will last for many, many years to come, particularly for the young folk. So we're talking about the early learning centres and how children are given confidence to make mistakes, if you know, and to learn and to grow resilience, actually, which is something that one of the impacts in society nowadays is some older people go blah blah blah, children have no resilience. Well, at some point that might be true, but then children have gone through a very bad pandemic, and the pressures upon them nowadays are multifold. I guess we don't have truancy officers anymore, like when I were a lad. But people just turned up to school, or if they didn't, they were still doing things that were outdoors and leading to, you know, they weren't just sitting watching telly or feeling poorly. They're probably out working on a farm half the time. So it's very timely, the spotlighting well-being and the readiness to learn. And without the readiness to learn, you can have as many fantastic teachers all ready to deliver the learning, but we need to have the kids there. It's very important at this time, and look forward to hearing more as we move on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Merrick. Yes, I think it definitely it will be interesting to see as things progress with the attendance, and in particular, hopefully we'll see, you know, the increase, which means that the children are where they should be. So thanks very much for that. I don't believe, do we have any other comments or no? Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming today. Been much appreciated, very informative. Yeah. And the recommendation is for us to note and comment, and I believe we have done so. There's nothing left. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is the Draft Standards and Quality Report 22-23, and this, I believe, is going to be Janice, this one and the next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this report is to inform Education Committee of the proposed contents of the Education Department's Annual Standards and Quality Report for school session 2022 to 2023. The draft report can be found in part of Appendix 1, pages 41 onwards in your papers. The draft Standards and Quality Reports provides evidence of the progress the Department and ELC settings in schools have made in supporting all learners, with a particular focus on inequalities of outcome experienced by our more disadvantaged children and young people. The report lists the expected outcomes and impact and is organised under the Department's vision statement, everyone attaining, everyone achieving through excellent experiences. The Department has undertaken a self-evaluation exercise which has informed the draft report. This evaluation has helped to outline our next steps, which will be fed into the next local improvement plan that is the subject of a separate report at today's Education Committee. Evidence for the Standards and Quality Report is gathered annually through a range of activities designed to provide support and challenge to schools, services and early years settings. The range of evidence gathered is listed on page 44 of your papers and includes internal and external inspections, performance and questionnaire data. The draft report clearly evidences the continuous improvement of our ELC settings, schools and the Department. Key highlights in the actual Standards and Quality Report, page 8, would be pupils across East Renfrewshire once again excelling in their SQA qualifications with another year of outstanding results. Page 10, the collaborative learning networks that were established with a structure to focus on progression within curriculum for excellence levels and support collaborative planning of learning, teaching and assessment. Page 12, the highest ever number of pupils leaving East Renfrewshire schools went on to university, college, work or training. Page 23, adult learning services successfully re-established face-to-face learning across the authority, with 140 residents engaged with a range of learner-centred programmes taking place and increasing their English and in particular for speakers of other languages. Page 24, the annual Conveners Awards were celebrated in Clarkson Hall in March 2023, a return to face-to-face event. 38 young people and groups from across the authority were recognised for their outstanding achievements in various fields such as sports, creativity, community service and advocacy. Page 26, there has been a range of training opportunities and professional learning in relation to children's rights. 4 members of staff across education and community learning and development have been trained as UNCRC Train the Trainers. Page 29, from January to June 2023, 140 S3 pupils from Barrhead, Eastwood, Williamwood High Schools took part in an extended exchange programme with schools in France and in Spain, and at last committee we had pupils from Eastwood sharing that experience. And page 32, the Money Advice and Rights team worked in partnership with the Education Department to develop a pilot project offering financial advice with 2 primary schools. This approach builds on parents' positive relationships with schools and enables them to access support and advice in a discreet, familiar environment. With committee approval, the Department plans to issue the report electronically to all parents of children attending East Renfrewshire School or ELC setting, and I would ask committee to comment on the content of the report and ask the Director of Education to make any amendments and take the necessary steps to produce and issue copies of the report for parents. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Janice. So we're asked initially to comment on the content of the Standards and Quality, the draft report. Do we have anything in particular? Evelyn?
Sorry. Equality coordinators were supported to consider the relationship between racism and the curriculum through a specific focus on decolonising the curriculum. Could you explain to me what decolonising the curriculum means, please?
Hi. So I suppose probably one of the easiest ways is to give an example. So the equalities coordinators received professional learning, and we actually took it to the parent equalities group as well. And one of the examples the training facilitator gave was a map of the world. And on the map of the world, countries in Europe, for example, were larger than they actually are. So it's looking at the curriculum, and where there's things that aren't quite accurate, it's raising awareness of that so that teachers are able to, I suppose, challenge some of the stuff and think about it before actually teaching lessons and having those conversations.
Thank you for explaining. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Siobhan. Any other notes or comments? Councillor O'Donnell?
I've got a few points, a few comments. This is an excellent report, there's no question about that. Excellent outcomes and focus on continuous improvement and not resting on our laurels shines throughout this report. So really well done to everyone in that. I particularly want to note the excellent results on the Reading Recovery Programme. Well done to everyone on that. Some specific sort of questions on the content of the report. Page 46, the baseline performance going into Primary 1. How should we interpret these results in the context of the 1140 early learning hours? Is this the right measure, or are there others that we should be looking at to assess the outcomes of the 1140 hours? Further on page 59, there's a really weird comment here. It's within the facilities management bit, and there's a phrase called differently nuanced deposit return scheme. I had no idea what that meant. I wonder if someone can throw some light on that. And then finally, page 60 on modernisation. I'm wondering if this is actually the whole story, because I know Council has already agreed for further investment into Maidenhill, and that was sort of missing there. And again, for completeness, I wonder if we should be saying something about the unsuccessful leap bids in Cross Arthur Lane, Carrollside. Thank you.
Several questions here, I think, Janice.
So I'll pick up some before I pass to my colleague Joe. First of all, just to draw the attention to, this is about last year. So some of the things that you've mentioned, like the unsuccessful leap bids, we didn't find out until this year. So we would be commenting in a future report, but we can certainly take that on board, and it's the same with Maidenhill. But the 1140 impact of it, we know that nationally there wasn't a sort of quality assurance programme to go alongside that, but there is one being built just now, and I believe that a paper is going to COSLA tomorrow to children and young people about a operational framework measurement tool to look at, is it actually working, how can we measure it in terms of children's progress, but also in the wider economic. As part of the West Partnership, we wanted to have a look at that, so we started work about 18 months ago. We were granted funding via the West Partnership and the 8 local authorities with the support of settings, and parents and young people are carrying out a longitudinal study, and we are looking at, and we're not using the baseline, we're actually using developmental milestones as measured by health visitors, because although we bridge 2 health boards in like Lanarkshire Health Board and Greater Glasgow, they both use a strengths and difficulties questionnaire, so that is being used, which is kind of aligns more to the readiness to learn than necessarily curricular progress. And we're also doing some observations in playrooms and speaking to parents about the difference it has meant. Anecdotally, we do know that a lot more of our parents are taking up opportunities for training, and we have a lot of parents who've actually trained through our adult learning service to become play workers with a view to going on to become actually work in the early years sector, because that's where they got the strength. For us, the baseline has been in place about 2005. The baseline was first introduced, but we, with early years, have developed an early years tracking tool, and arguably that probably gives us more accurate information, and there's plans over the next academic year to phase out the baseline and have that continuous assessment that we have from primary into secondary. We wanted to make sure that the workforce had the capacity and we had that moderation to make sure that we were accurately assessing, but I think that will give a more accurate picture of where our children and young people are at. We are seeing particular areas that, despite the increased time in early years, there's not necessarily progress you would expect, and that was, I think, highlighted by Ainsley McGoldrick this morning. We are seeing more and more young people with neurodiverse type symptoms, language, communication, sharing, taking turns, being in crowded environments, all these sorts of things. So that's why it's really important we use the information we have to invest just now, because we don't have the capacity as a education department or indeed a council to meet these needs longer term if we don't have that early intervention. So I'm happy that you've raised that, Councillor Donald, because I think that demonstrates the sort of what we're doing with the information we have. And if I could pass on the deposit scheme. Oh, sorry, no.
That's very helpful, thank you. I thought it would not be one measure, and that's helpful that it isn't just one measure. Is there a plan to come back to committee at some stage once this framework has been worked through?
We could bring it as a demonstration of it as part of the early years paper that comes in June, if that would be of interest, and it can show you the sort of information at key transition and who has access to it. We can pull some of the sort of information that's helped shape some of the things that's in our plans, our early years plans.
Perfect, and obviously it's not just an educational impact in terms of employability and all of this sort of stuff. It's very important.
We have got interim reports, and with the permission of the West Partnership, I'm sure we would be able to share some of these even as an appendix to our document.
Thank you.
you, Janice. Joe.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I can just touch upon some of the other points that you made. The phrase there regarding the differently nuanced deposit return scheme, I suppose, is us trying to prepare and to be future-proof for any other future approaches to deposit recycling in terms of things like bottles, cans and such like. So we're looking at the various approaches that we may look to employ in future years. Again, that ties in with the wider direction in terms of net carbon zero, our current practice that we've been going through in terms of facilities management, such as removal of single-use plastics, trying to move away from those type of uses of materials to a more sustainable and, I suppose, circular recycling economy that the children spoke about earlier that they're learning about in school. So we're actually trying to learn from them and take that into practice as well within our establishment. So it's about us trying to be future-proofed and prepared for what the direction of travel takes in terms of things like reusing cans and so forth. In terms of the point, in terms of modernisation, we didn't reference that just now in terms of Maidenhill and obviously Mearns Castle and so forth. They're both inextricably linked. Those still have to go through the process, of course, of approval. We did get approval, as you recall, back in September now, for that first initial tranche of capital to allow us to start those initial works. And of course, we have now gone through the CPA process. And that will obviously come as part of the budget setting process in March. So that, because that entire project hasn't fully been approved yet, we've not recorded that here at this particular point in time. And you'll be aware from the capital programme, there's a whole host of modernisation activities that are taking place across education estate, whether it be replacement of pitches and carpets, both within establishments of the schools and the council, are looking at our maintenance programmes and improving areas of schools across the council, roofs and boilers and so forth. So those items were really just to give a flavour of some of the key areas that we're looking at this particular point in time. And again, with regards to the LEAP bids, as you mentioned, unfortunately, and it's very regrettable that those were unsuccessful, it's worth noting that the feedback that I've received from the Scottish Government is that those bids did meet entirely in terms of the outcomes of the desired programme, but unfortunately, as a result of the number of projects that have been put forward nationally, not all of those could be accommodated, and unfortunately, it was believed there was a number of other schools which had a higher priority than ours. We've not referenced it at this particular point in time because, of course, that's now been taken forward. But what we will be doing now is to look at what we can do through our own internal processes and through taking that through our corporate asset management group and those capital processes to look to see what we can do to address those areas of concern, particularly those schools which have got those lowest condition schools, and notably those that we put in for the LEAP funding, Carrollside and Cross Athley primary schools initially. So we will be taking that forward, but of course that's at the early stages, given that we only received the news of the unsuccessful bids just towards the end of the last calendar year. So we will hopefully bring further information about that forward in future months as part of that asset management process that we go through within the council.
Can I just, excuse me, try and speak. I think on your point, Councillor O'Donnell, around the significant scenario planning being undertaken to deliver differently nuanced deposit schemes, I think we could make that clearer. I think we'll just take that away and amend that. I think that for a parent reading that, they won't understand that, so we can change that. Yeah. And some of it is just, as Joe's highlighting, some of it is a timing thing. So this is a report that has to just reflect the school year 22-23. So there's inevitably a cut-off bit in terms of, given that there's it takes a time to publish it. So I suppose essentially we look at any decisions that the council has made or any work that has been agreed during that academic year. So inevitably there's a bit of a kind of timing piece in terms of the overlap.
Councillor O'Donnell.
I accept your point on the overlap, but if this is going out to parents, it is an opportunity to let them know where we are, the latest information as of now on those sort of issues. So perhaps if you could reflect on that. I get the timing difference, but if these decisions have been made and are in play, we might as well inform the parents when we're here.
Perhaps the best thing we can do is we could add a link to the other kind of strategies that the council brings forward through sort of Margaret's paper and so on. So we could just put a little line that would allow parents to look at the latest information by directing them to other sort of council papers.
Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, just to welcome the report and some of the comments made on it. I think some of the notable aspects in it are in terms of everyone attaining, everyone achieving through excellent experience and action. And I think on page 71, where we have the 4 priorities, narrowed them down and given those 4 headings, and everything that's included below that gives a great example of what we're working towards and highlights that continuous improvement that we look to see. So that's good to see, and I think that breaks down many of the activities and issues that we would want to see, and indeed the outcomes and the potential impacts of that. So it's useful to see that and then those headlines. I think on some of the other things, yeah, it was touched on and how this feeds in to the bigger picture, not just in East Renfrewshire, but nationally. There are papers coming up. We touched on the inspection framework, which will be discussed tomorrow, as well as papers on digital education, and indeed one on empowerment and the head teacher's charter, which again is vital. And as we heard from Fiona earlier on, how the schools are operating and that leadership aspect, which again comes through strongly in all of the reports that we see this morning. So I think overall, very happy to support what has been described within this. I think it puts us in the right position moving forward. It builds on what we already have and what we're already aware of. And just a brief note on the recycling issue. I've seen previously in a school, it was actually in Romania, where they had a very similar scheme, basically a unit for recycling within the school grounds. And I think the children obviously were being encouraged to recycle in various aspects of it, but I think they were given vouchers which could then be utilised in the school for things like school trips and such like. So there are probably ways where, yeah, if things can be done to make it purposeful, but I appreciate that's a much bigger issue in terms of recycling, but yeah, perhaps worth looking at and noting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. Any other notes or comments on the content? A final question actually from me. I'm aware of questionnaires are mentioned in terms of a particular going out to parents, and but I'm aware that in a lot of instances you will get a cohort of parents who put a particular slant on something, and how you take that into account. Where would you then go and look at other indicators, or do more investigation where you think that there's a bias, not bias necessarily, but a slant possibly, and so to inform the content of the report?
So the authority has a 4-year cycle of questionnaires, which go out to pupils, support staff, teachers and parents, and we use that to not only find out a sort of sample authority sort of views, but also that goes back to the schools. So where there's maybe a particular population of staff or pupils or indeed parents, there is an expectation that they would go back to those parents and find out, because people say something for a reason, and there is maybe an unhappiness or an area of improvement. So we would certainly would not dismiss it. We would want to go and do that, as you say, further investigation, but certainly have more dialogue to say, you're not happy about this, can you tell us a wee bit more? Can you tell us what we could do to change that? Now, sometimes there's things we can't change, but I think it's really important that we listen to feedback and we act upon it.
Thank you, Janice. Any other questions or comments? No. As we were asked to do then, comment on the content of the report, but also make any potential amendments as we've discussed, and ask Mark to take any necessary steps to produce initial copies then of the report to stakeholders. So, okay, happy with that? Excellent. Thank you. And okay, so the next report then, they go in tandem really. These we have then the draft local improvement plan 24-27, and again this will be Janice.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of the report is to seek Education Committee approval for the Education Department's Local Improvement Plan 2024 to 2027. The draft Local Improvement Plan is designed to give an indication of the Department's key areas for improvement over the next 3 years, and is updated annually to take account of changing priorities. The draft plan is included as part of Appendix 1 on page 67 of your papers. Cognisance has been taken of the suite of plans that inform the work of the Council and the Education Department, with full account taken of East Renfrewshire's Community Planning Partnership, Community Plan, the Fair at East Rend Plan, locality plans and the Department's contribution to the Council's Outcome Delivery Plan. The West Partnership Improvement Plan also sets out areas of the 8 local authorities will collaborate on regionally to offer schools opportunities to improve and consider when planning for improvement. Full detail of the plan structure can be found on page 76 of your papers, and that demonstrates how all plans complement and align and support East Renfrewshire's local improvement planning process. The local improvement plan details the how and what of turning the department's vision of everyone attaining, everyone achieving through excellent experiences into a reality. Through extensive engagement with our pupils, staff and parents, we have identified 4 priorities for 24-27 which will enable us to achieve our vision. Our local improvement plan for 24-27 is organised under these 4 areas. Each priority is closely aligned to the National Improvement Framework and details key outcomes, impact and activities for the department for the 3-year period. The plan lists the expected outcomes under the 4 priorities, but we should stress it's a high-level plan which contains a list of areas for improvement and outlines the actions we will take over the next 3 years to achieve these. Complementing this plan are other key documents and strategies which provide additional performance measures, ensuring alignment, cohesion and avoiding duplication. High-level areas for improvement are outlined on pages 72 to 75 and give an indication of the priorities of development and the activities the department, schools and services will take to make the necessary improvements to the quality of provision in East Renfrewshire Council. The purpose of the local improvement plan is to help and guide individual settings, schools and services with their planning for improvement. It is not to prescribe what those improvements should be or how they should be taken forward. The department evaluates its progress annually to identify strengths in current provision and areas where further improvement is required. The self-evaluation and evaluations of services and schools by the department's Quality Improvement Team, Education Scotland and Care Inspectorate help to identify steps which need to be taken to secure continuous improvement. The timescale for the implementation of the plan is school sessions 24-25, 25-26 and 26-27. The department will continue to report on the progress it has made with its local improvement plan through the annual Standards and Quality Report. It is recommended that the Education Committee approve the attached draft local improvement plan for 24-27. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Janice. I'll open it up for any notes or comments. Then Councillor O'Donnell.
Just a clarification, I think the answer is yes on this. So this is the overarching council local improvement plan, but then each individual school will create their own with the same sort of time frame, but using these themes, but then make it bespoke for what their own issues are. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a statutory duty for education departments to produce a plan and also for schools and to produce a standards and quality report as well, so that it's compulsory. But our head teachers are empowered to use their own self-evaluation to determine what their priorities for improvement. But our strategy really is empowerment within a framework, and the local improvement plan provides this framework. So our resources, our support will go towards the priorities listed here. However, these priorities we've not plucked out of the air. Schools have been really involved, and indeed parents and pupils, in shaping this, so that there will be common themes and threads. But you're correct that their improvement plans will align to this, but they don't necessarily need to do everything that we're doing, but based on their needs at that particular time.
And obviously the National NIF, National Improvement Framework, priorities are within that as well. And I believe, well, in the discussions that we've had about it internally, the schools appreciate the fact that they actually have the clarity of the framework, Councillor O'Donnell, to then allow them to create their own plan. I believe that's correct. Janice?
Yes, and there is a slight change to how we've set out and prioritised this year, but schools have been very much part of that, indeed parents and pupils, and they do say that that gives them that guidance, that structure, but really the key is keeping an eye on what's appropriate for their school at that time as well. But some of the themes are as I say, will be consistent.
Thank you. Any other notes, comments? Sorry, Councillor Buchanan.
Chair, I just briefly, I'd obviously jumped the gun slightly. Some of the comments have really commented on it, but again, I think that highlights the nature of all of the papers going forward and what the achievements are. So happy to endorse the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. And I think no further comments or notes. Okay, and so we are actually asked just to approve the draft local improvement plan. Approved. Agreed. Thank you. Okay, and so we can move on now to the leadership strategy, and which is our final paper, and if I remember correctly, it's Tracy. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Convener. The purpose of this report is to seek Education Committee approval of the Draft Leadership Strategy 2023-28. For ease of reference, our refreshed strategy for leadership has been divided into 3 distinct papers. Firstly, the evaluation report in Appendix 1. This gives a summary of the findings of the evaluation into the impact of our ongoing strategy. The strategy paper itself, paper 2, which provides a summary of the key aims, targets, action plan and expected outcomes, Appendix 2. And then finally, the think piece, which is intended as a stimulus to encourage deeper discussion across the education department and to offer challenge and suggested support. Further detail on this paper can be accessed online. In line with the expected outcomes of a number of national documents, as detailed in paragraph 4, the Education Department recognises that a major challenge for East Renfrewshire schools and early learning and childcare settings is how to stay ambitious and build on what has already been accomplished in a way that can achieve greater equity for all learners. In order that our establishments can achieve the aspirations of the National Improvement Framework in ensuring every child and young person has the same opportunity to succeed, no matter their background or shared protected characteristics, with a particular focus on closing the poverty-related attainment gap, we must invest in building capacity in our leaders at every level. However, such investment is only effective if it makes a real and sustainable difference where it matters most, that is, in improved experiences and outcomes for all learners. The overall review findings of the Department's endeavours to build leadership capacity are detailed in the evaluation report and reveal great progress in our educational establishments in implementing many of the key aims of our 2019 strategy. The key performance indicators and targets achieved during the period 2017 to 2022 are detailed in the strategy paper, Appendix 2, page 15, together with the Department's targets for the next 5 years. Our renewed strategy for leadership informs and empowers school and establishment leaders to set their own actions, which will foster a culture of distributive leadership at all levels within the context of each educational setting. The strategy does, however, provide appropriate action planning, which sets out our department expectations to ensure all establishments continue to proactively move towards a self-sustaining system of leadership, which is values-based and has ambitions and aspirations for all our learners at the heart of everything that we do. Appendix 2, page 8 to 13, details the critical indicators and outcomes which will measure the impact of the activities the department, establishments and staff will undertake to deliver the key aims of our refreshed strategy. It is expected that going forward, strategic planning for leadership will be incorporated into the usual improvement planning and reporting processes, with successes being evaluated annually in each establishment's standards and quality report and measurable targets being included in the annual school and early learning and childcare setting improvement plan. These reports will include both progress made in meeting the priorities of the National Improvement Framework and detail of the steps taken to develop distributive leadership at all levels. The strategy will place a renewed focus on leadership within our establishments. Contemporary academic research in education identifies inspirational leadership as the foundation upon which world-class teaching and learning is built. Our strategy will inform the creation of a suite of innovative, high-quality leadership programmes which will ensure that teachers and early year practitioners have the necessary learning and development opportunities to make a real difference to outcomes for children and young people. Sustainable leadership must be a shared responsibility. If we are successful in achieving our vision of true distributive leadership, we will ensure that East Renfrewshire both attracts and retains the best teachers and leaders, which in turn will positively impact on the quality of learning and teaching in our classrooms. Education Committee is asked to approve the refreshed leadership strategy and request the Director of Education to bring appropriate reports to Education Committee on the impact of its implementation. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Tracy. Yep, interesting paper to conclude with in the final. Obviously, leadership strategy, as we talked about, Councillor Buchanan mentioned it as well. We've seen great examples here today of the leadership that we have within our schools, but it's to continue that and, you know, adapt, learn, and ensure we keep on, you know, raising the bar as high as we possibly can for all of the schools and the children and the teachers, indeed, in the area. Does anyone have any particular questions or comments about the strategy? Dorothy?
This is an excellent paper, and I can only highly commend you for producing this. It's very, very full, and it sets out a very ambitious role, which I'm absolutely certain we'll be able to achieve. I think it's worth noting, though, the particular role that head teachers and senior staff in the denominational schools play as leaders of faith. And they also require high quality leadership learning programmes that would complement what East Renfrewshire Education Department offers. But of course we'll have a focus on developing their skills as leaders of faith. So we appreciate very much working in tandem with the Education Department to help us deliver the diocesan leadership programmes, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on that, whether it be giving CLPL for NQTs, for aspiring head teachers, or indeed for any of our staff in the denominational schools. So thank you for that, and we look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you, Dorothy, for that comment. Sorry, Councillor O'Donnell.
Yeah, a couple of points. One, just to clarify, does this report get sent to Scottish Government? Is this a statutory requirement, or this is purely internal, just purely operational for us? Thanks for that. Again, I think the key thing for me, that what comes through in this paper, that is there's no complacency. It'd be very easy to sit on our laurels and say, yeah, we know what we're doing, but you absolutely see the determination to constantly improve what we do. I would like, so that's really welcome. However, I'm not sure I needed to know as much about distributive versus distributed forms of leadership. Never came across the terms of form, but I'm definitely very well informed. And I have to admit, I haven't looked at the 38 academic cross-references in the report as well. But it shows that you're taking it incredibly seriously as an organisation to constantly improve, and credit to you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. The purpose for the academic research is that a big push that we have is that our teachers improve their classroom abilities and teaching and learning in terms of that academic research, and it's about us as senior leaders being able to model that. And we took the opportunity within the leadership strategy because we were talking about the importance of that professional inquiry, to be able to showcase that, equally, we take on those professional inquiries and do the reading as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, just a brief comment on it. I think, again, it highlights everything that we've discussed earlier today. I think it's great that it highlights that our learning across the department and across all children's sector isn't just for the children. It's for our teaching staff as well, so that everyone is on that continuous improvement journey, if you like. And that's great, not just for the retention, hopefully, of staff, but for the well-being of staff, ensuring that they're delivering on a regular basis and having that opportunity. And again, it touches on our, as we mentioned earlier, the succession planning about carrying on with all of the aspects and staff who are more than aware of what we want to see delivered for our children and young people. So it's great to see this, I think, Tracy. It is vital that so many of our staff were involved in pulling it together and doing that research, and that in itself makes it probably a paper that could be much wider distributed, and no doubt a discussion point in regional improvement collaboratives, etc. Because again, it's highlighting what we can do in our respective areas to ensure that we get the best outcomes that we can. So it's great to see that coming forward, and I think very worthwhile.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. Any other notes or comments? No. It is actually, you mentioned there the regional collaboratives. I think there is definite strength within education that teachers to collaborate and to share knowledge and work together on what works and what doesn't work in different scenarios, and etc. And I think the leadership strategy is excellent. As you said, it's quite technical and there's a lot of research and very thorough. One thing that occurred to me is that we see examples of good and bad leadership everywhere, and I wouldn't mention the post office and etc. and the things that occur and happen out in the world. How, in particular, could we, there's leaders out there who might have a different lens or aspect that could actually, the teachers' education could learn from as well, in the private sector. And can we introduce that, or is there elements of that, maybe in the focus groups, etc., to bring in externally? Certainly there's probably a lot of leaders who actually live in East Renfrewshire, who are parents, within our schools, like to actually see what their contribution may be. Is that something that could be included?
Yes, I mean, we can certainly bring in, and we do bring in quite a lot of sort of guest speakers, etc. Certainly from around the country, we've had quite a number of people that have come to our head teachers seminars, our head teachers meetings, but more than happy always to include leaders from various industrial areas that could add to our knowledge of leadership and our journey forward.
Excellent, that's great to hear. One final thing is, sometimes you have, I'm sure there'll be differences of opinion in terms of, like, in the terms of disruption or conflict, where sometimes staff might see things differently. How do you cope with that within the actual strategy or the process of, making sure everyone's on board and adopts the actual strategy and ethos of what we're trying to do?
I think that's why this year, in the strategy, we have very much tried to focus on that authentic leadership and the imperfect leadership. So we have moved away from looking at creating what used to be called the hero leader, that was set in a mould that everybody had to be a particular type of leader going forward. And what we've said is that we're looking to understand and to embrace everybody's individual leadership strengths, and not necessarily weaknesses, but areas for growth. And we understand that different leaders are required within different contexts. So we very much in our head teacher recruitment look at the assessment centre, looking for head teachers who are fit for the community and the context within which they are applying. and that isn't necessarily the same leader in each and every one of our schools. There are very different contexts. So, yes, people's strengths can be utilised in different areas, and we welcome that, both that support but also the challenge that our leaders bring to one another, and encourage that.
Excellent. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting term, imperfect leadership. I guess acknowledging that none of us are perfect is a very good thing, possibly. Okay, so we've been asked, unless there's any other questions or comments, we've been asked to approve the draft leadership strategy and request that the Director, Mark, brings a report to the Education Committee on the impact of its implementation. I'm sure we'll all be happy to see that. Approved. Great. Thank you. And that's our final item today. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.